Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 66. So I do have a brief announcement before we get started this evening. As I mentioned last week, I'm starting introductory classes for dimensional frequency expansion, or what I call DFE. The first one's going to be here in Tucson in person on October 24th from 2 to 4 at Brightway Wellness. It's a $25 class. But I will also be offering this same class on Zoom, probably in November and maybe again in December. I haven't exactly figured out the timeline yet, but it will also be $25. And in this 2-hour class, I'm going to talk about DFE, what it is, how it came to me, how it works. And then I'm also going to do an emerald activation, which is the first layer of DFE. And this is really a heart-based frequency. So the emerald activation will kind of open your heart. It'll increase the flow of unconditional love into your being. And then it'll also activate your heart song, which is kind of the core of that emerald frequency layer. So if you want to learn more about this, you can head to the website, paulataylorenergy.com. If you go to the book online page, you can read about the class. If you haven't subscribed for my emails yet, you can do that at the bottom of any page. I just sent out an email about it. If you haven't gotten that email and you want to read it, you can see it on Facebook. I did post it as an attachment yesterday. So you can kind of read about all the stuff that's coming up. I'm really excited about it. And it took a leap of faith to kind of get me here. And so that's what we talked about last week. Last week we talked about taking a leap of faith. And just like always, you don't have to have seen last week's episode to know what's going on in this week. But I am going to just summarize by saying that last week I talked about my husband and I were thinking about buying a property in Mexico, and that was going to be a huge leap of faith for us. So we did put in an offer on this property in Mexico, this little tiny house, this casita, as I was thinking of it. And it was rejected because the buyer had just accepted another offer, and the house had been on the market for 14 months, and the odds of someone else putting in an offer like right when we did seemed really low. I'm going to go into that a little bit because it's where I came up with tonight's episode. So tonight we're going to talk about keeping the faith. But in order to get into that, I want to talk a little bit about what happened to me. So I made this huge leap of faith. My husband and I did. We made an offer on a property in Mexico, and then it was promptly rejected within about 24 hours. And it felt like someone had slammed a door in my face. It felt like we had been really flowing and everything was sort of happening just very naturally and in flow, and then somebody slammed a door in our face. So I want to talk a little bit, just to summarize in case you didn't watch last week's episode. I talked about the anatomy of taking a leap of faith. And I talked about how the first part of that is stepping outside of your comfort zone. And the second part of it is loosening your grip. And then the third part of it is releasing your attachment to the outcome. So I was pretty upset. I was pretty disappointed by this. And then I kind of started beating myself up about that. I was like, oh, you told everybody to release the attachment to the outcome and you didn't do that yourself. And so it got me thinking, and it got me kind of exploring keeping the faith. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And the first thing I want to say is that everyone has an ego. We talk about that pretty frequently. We can have moments where we step outside of our ego. We can do this spiritual work to move beyond the ego as much as we can, but we still have an ego, and our ego still wants what it wants. So my ego wanted to get that house in Mexico. I wanted that flow to mean that we were flowing effortlessly into getting this little casita. And that's not what happened. So the first thing that I did was I kind of started beating myself up for being upset. And then I realized, you know what? We talked about the anatomy of a leap of faith. So tonight we're going to talk about the anatomy of keeping the faith. So you've made a leap of faith. It didn't work out the way your ego wanted it to. What comes next? Because for a long time, my pattern would have been to get really down on myself, get really down on the whole thing, kind of just bring a lot of negativity in and sort of say like, well, what did I expect? How did I really expect that this was going to be this easy, or that I was really going to stay and flow? And I would have gripped right back into that habit that I have of gripping as opposed to staying loose and staying in flow. Because here's the thing, just because something didn't work out the way your ego wanted it to does not mean that you have stepped out of flow. In fact, it could be the exact opposite. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So the first step, the first part of the anatomy of keeping the faith is to acknowledge your feelings. And I think that as spiritual people, as people doing spiritual work, as people who are working to respond rather than react, sometimes we have a tendency to shut our feelings down and try to think, oh, I'm more than my feelings. I don't have these feelings. And that's a little bit where I went with this at first. Like, I knew I was really disappointed, but instead of just feeling that and like letting myself kind of be bummed out for a day or so, I was like, oh no, I'm not attached to the outcome, and I'm letting things go, and I'm so spiritual. And that was kind of a load of crap. Like, I'm still a human being. I'm still an ego. I might have practiced a lot and know how to step outside of that ego. But so the first step here in keeping the faith, so I made a leap of faith. It didn't work out the way my ego wanted to. So in order to keep the faith, in order to not lose faith in this whole process of flow that I've been stepping into, that's been so rewarding, like I said, I felt like I was in flow. I felt like things were going well. And then poof, it was like somebody hit me in the face. It was like the door slammed in my face. And as I'm just saying that, it's reminding me of the Sound of Music when they say, when God opens a door somewhere, he opens a window, which I don't prescribe to the masculine idea of God, and I don't use the word God on this show very often, but we're going to talk about that idea a little bit tonight. So I had to let myself be disappointed. And this house had been on the market, as I mentioned, for 14 months. And then suddenly, like, it must have been the day before or the day we actually made our offer, someone else made a full price offer and it was accepted. And I was like, what are the odds of that? And I started kind of throwing myself a pity party. I started going a little bit to that like negative place and, what are the odds of this? And nothing ever works out for me. And like all this like old programming kind of tapes started running in my head, oh, this isn't for you. You can't live this expansive of a life. Who did you think you were, that this was just going to work out for you? All these little like pity party kind of thoughts. And then I thought of that question again with a different perspective. What are the odds? And that led me to part 2 of the anatomy of keeping the faith. And that is, remember that you are divinely supported. Remember that the universe, this force greater than yourself, whatever word you want to use for it, God, if you like that word, you are supported by this divine love, by this divine energy. Whether you believe it or not, whether you're in your pity party or not, you're still supported. I truly believe that. So then I asked myself that question again after I sort of got through my little pity party and I felt my feelings and I did all that little processing there. I was like, man, what are the odds? Like, what are the odds that this house that's been on the market for so long that we were going to make an offer on got a different offer that got accepted right before ours? And I thought, what if that is the universe supporting me? What if I shift my perspective and I say, man, that was pretty long odds. So maybe somebody's looking out for me here. Maybe the timing's not right. Maybe the energy of this place is not right. Maybe there's something grander out there for me that I haven't been able to see yet. Maybe there's another property that's really right for us. Maybe, again, there's so many maybes there. There's so many what ifs. And if you let yourself feel that you're really supported by the divine, by the universe, whatever word you like for that, then those long odds start to look totally different to you. Instead of like, what are the odds? Nothing ever works out for me. It's like, wow, what are the odds? Something must really be looking out for me here. This was not the right thing for me to do. This was not the right way for this to work out. This was not for the highest good. And even though little ego me is like, oh, but I wanted this house, boo, boo-hoo. I got pretty quickly back into that broader view, seeing the forest and not just the trees, and remembering, recognizing that I am fully supported by the divine. So if I'm fully supported by the divine and I'm really in flow and I felt really in flow, then rather than feeling this as an energetic wall, perhaps I can look at this as part of that flow. I'm being redirected. If you're flowing down a river and you run into a rock, like, ouch, that hurts a little bit, but then you're going to be redirected around that rock. There's the current moves around things. And if you're flowing, if you're that water, eventually, if you're in flow enough, rather than hitting the rock, you might flow right around it, as water is, as if you're soft and if you're pliable enough. So I started thinking really differently about this after I had to process my feelings first. So again, part one of keeping the faith is feel your feelings. Acknowledge your feelings, recognize that they're there, let yourself feel them, recognize that your ego's throwing a temper tantrum and that's okay. Don't let that completely derail you, but let it happen, because if you shove that down, if you stuff that down, then you're going to shut down totally eventually, and you're going to end up in that place of like gripping instead of being in this flow and in this looseness that we talked about last week. Returning to this leap of faith process is kind of the last part of this. So in order to keep the faith, we've got to feel our feelings like, oh, this did not work out the way I wanted it to. But there's a reason for that. And I maybe don't see the reason. I haven't seen the reason yet. And when you think about it, if I've been doing this work again for a really long time, for over 25 years, and there are so many times in my life where something happened and it seemed like the worst thing at the time. When I got out of my first major relationship when I was 19 years old, I could not get over it. It was not a particularly good relationship. The person didn't treat me particularly well, and I just couldn't get over it. And I recognized that something was off about that. And it led me to my mentor, Sherry, who was my therapist. And if that hadn't happened to me, that thing that seemed so bad at the time, that was really difficult and hard, I maybe never would have met her. And she's really the one she was the catalyst for me to really, I was already doing this work, but she was the catalyst that drove me into the direction that I needed to go. I was really kind of lost, and because of something that at the time seemed really terrible and wrong, and I would have said, oh, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, that actually was the best thing that ever happened to me. Probably it's in the top 5 of my whole life of the best things that have ever happened to me. Ooh, sorry. Meeting my mentor, Sherry Ford, who we lost this year. And if you watch that episode, I thank you for that. And this is not even in my notes tonight. So anyway, but we're staying in flow. And part of staying in flow is letting yourself feel your feelings, as we talked about. So when you look back over things that have happened in your life, you need to get some distance. We talked about that last week, kind of stepping back and then looking. And so what I imagine now is that who knows how long it'll be, 3 months, 6 months, 5 years. I'm going to look back and say, oh yeah, remember when we put that offer in on that house and it just felt really wrong and I was upset about it. Well, now I see that was just the universe directing me elsewhere, because that wasn't the path that was for the highest good. And again, the path that's for the highest good is not always the path that our ego wants. And that's part of this work. Part of this work of truly being in flow, again, is not denying that the ego exists, because that's just going to make things keep coming up. When you shove something down, it just keeps coming up and coming out in other ways, and it's a recipe for disaster, honestly. So allowing yourself to feel the feelings, recognizing that everything happens for a reason and that you are divinely supported, allows you to stay in that flow. It allows you to step back into the leap of faith process, where you're going to, because that's another thing that can happen and I talked about this last week. If you take a leap of faith and it doesn't work out the way your ego wanted it to, then you might say, ooh, I'm not going to do that again. And you might shut down, and you might not do things outside of your comfort zone, and you might start gripping again, and you might get even more attached to outcomes. And that's kind of the opposite of what we want in terms of flow and clarity and expansion. In order to bring harmony and healing into our energetic field, into our bodies, we want to be in flow. We want to be in ease as much as possible. So processing through those steps, acknowledging your feelings, recognizing and remembering that you're divinely supported, and then stepping back into that leap of faith process. Okay, I'm going to continue to step outside my comfort zone. I'm going to continue to loosen my grip, and I'm going to continue to remind myself that I'm not attached to the outcome. And again, does that mean that I'm fully non-attached? I mean, Buddhists study this idea of non-attachment for, years and years and years. It's a huge tenet of Buddhism. And like, do you ever really master it? I think mastery of non-attachment is just reminding yourself over and over again to let go. It's just a continual process of letting go. And so I felt my feelings. I remembered that I'm supported by the universe, and then I let it go. And it took me a few days, and that's okay. I mean, years ago, it might have taken me years to get over a big disappointment, because it was a big disappointment. But I also recognize that I am divinely supported. And part of that means that I have faith, and I'm keeping my faith. I have faith and trust that I'm supported, that I'm being directed where I need to go to serve the highest good. Because again, I'm not here to serve my ego as much as I'd like to, as much as, the little tiny me in there wanted a lot of things, just like with my infertility journey. That was a huge process of letting go and recognizing that the ego doesn't always get what it wants, and it's not meant to, because we're meant to serve a larger purpose. We're meant to be in that flow, and we're meant to just continually let go. And I think that's why some people find decluttering so important, physically decluttering your space. It's an act of letting go, and it's difficult. It's really hard. I have stuff that I'm like very attached to that I don't want to let go. So if you think about that physical stuff in terms of mental and emotional stuff, it's the same way. I fell in love a little bit with the idea of this little tiny casita and the potential it had, and the things we could do to it, and the trips we could take there, and the idea that we could maybe even live there, at some point. And I have to let that go. And that's what a non-attachment to the outcome is, or releasing your attachment to the outcome. I got attached to the outcome, but I'm also okay with letting it go. I have to process through that so that I'm genuinely letting it go. Because what happened at first was like, oh yeah, I'll just let this go. Oh yeah, I look like I'm really letting it go right now, right? I've got my fists clenched and I've got my shoulders raised and like, yep, it's fine, I'm letting it go. No, it's fine, I'm letting it go. It's a completely different energetic, emotional, physical response when you truly let something go. And denial is not the way to do that. Letting yourself feel the feelings, admitting that you feel the feelings, and then remembering that you're supported, and then stepping back into that leap of faith process and remembering you're supported. It's okay to step outside of your comfort zone. It's okay to loosen your grip, because that divine love is there to support you, even though it's scary and even though it's hard. Life is hard. Life is difficult emotionally. I just started crying about something, somebody I lost not that long ago, but it came out of nowhere. That's how grief works. That's how life works. But I'm already flowing through that again. And as I get better at this, I recognize how powerful it is to really know that I'm supported and to step into that flow over and over again. And to be okay with losing it, and to say, oh yeah, I got a little invested in that, and and to not be hard on myself about it, to not beat myself up about it, but to say, like, this is okay. It's okay that you're disappointed, and it's okay that it's going to take you a couple days to get back into flow, but to just keep letting go over and over again. I feel the beauty in that, and the beauty in that surrender. And that's why I do this work. This work has real life consequences. It has real life applications. Sometimes we get into things on the show and they seem a little abstract. This whole DFE, the dimensional frequency expansion, that has changed my life. That emerald frequency expansion is what has allowed me to go to Costco, which again, I use Costco as an example all the time. I just went there right before we went on our trip, and it's a totally different experience for me. And I know that's because these dimensional frequencies are fully supporting me, just like this divine love fully supports me. It's all divine love. It's just different aspects in this physical realm. We have different things that come and support us. Like one day you might do yoga and the next day you might go jogging. It's just different aspects of the same thing that serves your overall spiritual health, just like doing different physical exercises serves your physical health. So that was like nothing like what I wrote. I almost didn't make notes for tonight, and I'm toying with the idea of just pulling a card and doing these completely spontaneously. And maybe I'll do that as a challenge. Maybe we'll do like we did our 21 days of sweetness. Maybe we'll do like 4 weeks of spontaneous wind down Wednesdays, because again, the flow, the more I get into flow, the more I recognize the importance of flow. The more expanded I get, the more I recognize the importance of expansion. And the clearer I get, I'm very clear about what happened here. You notice at first I was a little bit muddy. I was very disappointed. I didn't want to admit it. And so I had to work through that muddiness. But as soon as I got clear, like, it's okay to feel your feelings, and I felt them, then I got back into that expansion. And now I feel harmony already about this. And it's only been about 3 days since this happened. So this work has real life application. And these meditations carry forth into your week. That's why we do these every week. And so without further ado, let's talk about the meditation for tonight. So what we're going to do tonight is tap into that divine support and ask for some help. And last week we talked a little bit, or we meditated a little bit about a leap of faith. So if you did your leap of faith, that was your homework from last week, then thank you for doing that. I haven't heard from anyone, so I'm just assuming it went perfectly for all of you. But I'm always here if you have questions, or you need to reach out, or you want some one-on-one help. What we're going to do tonight, I'm not going to talk about the leap of faith, I don't think, in the meditation. But if you want to set that as your intention as we step into this divine support, and remember that we're fully supported, as we ask for help and guidance, you might allow that to be specifically about your leap of faith that you were meditating about last week. So let's meditate together. So tonight, again, like last week, you might decide to meditate in a slightly different position. You don't have to, but to continue stepping outside of your comfort zone, I'm actually sitting in front of a different table tonight, and which is great. It's a wider table, so I didn't have to move things around. And so I stepped outside of my comfort zone, and it feels really good to me. I feel like I actually increased my flow and my expansion. So if you'd like, maybe sit in a slightly different place, maybe sit in a different position, maybe lie down, maybe sit in a different room, maybe just face a different direction as we discussed last week. Maybe just tweak your routine ever so slightly, just so you feel like you're challenging your routine a little bit. You're stepping outside of your routine. And then let yourself get settled. Let your body feel really heavy tonight. Perhaps where you are, the weather has changed as it has here. You're feeling that call to autumn coziness. Maybe you get a blanket and wrap yourself up in it. Just let yourself feel really heavy, really relaxed. Take some nice deep oxytocin breaths in through the nose. Really let your belly float forward as you breathe in. And and then sigh them out. Start to feel the flow of the breath as you breathe in, letting that breath flow in effortlessly down to that low belly. Then sighing it out. You could actually feel almost a circular pattern as you breathe sometimes, breathing in and drawing that energy down to the low belly. And then breathing out, releasing it fully down into the earth. As you breathe in, drawing energy now down through the top of the head. Allow that crown chakra to open, that beautiful crown at the top of your head, gently opening, inviting in this divine energy, this unconditional love and light that we call on each week, that is part of who we are. As you breathe in, draw that energy down into the head and the neck. And then as you sigh that breath out, send it all the way down through the rest of your body and into the earth. And as you breathe in again, now draw that energy down through the head and the neck, into the shoulders and the upper arms. And then sighing that energy down through the rest of the body and into the earth. And breathing in again, drawing energy in through the top of the head and the neck, all the way down through the arms to the wrists and hands, and then sighing that energy out down into the earth. And then breathing in, drawing that energy in through the head and the neck, down into the chest and upper back, and then sighing that beautiful breath, that energy down through the rest of the body and into the earth. And breathing in again, drawing that energy in through the top of the head, into the chest, into the mid-belly and mid-back, and then sighing that energy down into the earth. And breathing in, drawing the energy down through the head and the neck, through the torso, into the low belly and low back, and then sighing that out, drawing that energy down into the earth, letting it flow down and out through your feet. And then breathing in, drawing that energy in through the head and the neck, through the torso, into the hips and pelvis. And then sighing that energy down through the legs and into the earth. And breathing in once more, drawing that energy all the way down through the torso and the hips, down into the knees, through the upper legs there. And then sighing that energy down into the earth through the feet. And breathing in once more, drawing that energy in through the head and the neck, through the torso and the hips and the legs and the knees, all the way down, breathing now to the bottom of the feet, and then sighing that energy out into the earth. And releasing that breath, just letting yourself breathe as is natural here, releasing those oxytocin breaths. Unless they're serving you, you can keep doing that. Allow yourself to just sit for a moment, noticing the shift from when we started. Perhaps your body feels heavier. Perhaps you feel more present. Perhaps you're more aware of your feet on the ground. That beautiful support of that Mother Earth, our Gaia. That rich, dark soil, that energy of this physical plane supporting you. And now as you're ready, draw your energetic sanctuary into this space with you. Bring your planet to you. If you're not familiar with this practice, just imagine that you're now sitting in the most beautiful, the safest space you can imagine. This is your energetic sanctuary. And for tonight, there are many parts of your sanctuary. Some of you have explored those many times with me. Tonight, I want you to be in the safest space, that safest part of your sanctuary. Perhaps it's where you've gone before to ask for guidance. Perhaps it's the first place you usually start when you visit your planet, when your planet comes to you. Let yourself be drawn to the safest of spaces tonight for the rest of this meditation. Let yourself get comfortable. Maybe you look around, notice your surroundings, or feel into your surroundings. What does it look like? What does it smell like? How does it feel in your body? Your body is completely at ease in this space. No one can enter this space unless they're invited. Nothing can hurt you here. This is a beautiful healing space that is just for you. And allow that light that you called in at the beginning of the meditation through your breathing, allow that to really come into this space. Feel the presence of that divine support in this space. Feel how supported and loved you are here. Feel how special you are in this special space that is just for you. Allow your body to relax fully in this beautiful energetic sanctuary. And as you're ready, I'd like you to ask for some help here. Ask for some guidance and see who or what shows up. Perhaps you're calling on a spirit guide or a loved one. Perhaps you see an animal or feel the presence of someone you love. Perhaps it's an entirely new presence. And remember that nothing can hurt you here. Anything that comes has been invited and works for your highest good. Just let yourself sit and open to this added support here. This one-on-one support in the form of a guide, however that shows up. It may just be a feeling, you may hear something. Perhaps you're just imagining someone who's passed on that you loved very much. Perhaps you're seeing a figure or a person or an energy you've never encountered before. Just let this unfold naturally. Let this be organic. Don't try to push it. If you don't see or feel anything, that's fine. Just sit and enjoy the beauty of this space. Enjoy the support of your planet beneath you, of the earth beneath you, of that beautiful flow of unconditional love that's still coming in through the top of your head and filling your body, that's grounding you down into the earth and that rich energy of the earth. Just explore your sanctuary a little bit. But if you're being visited by a guide in whatever form that comes, first just allow yourself to be present with this guide. Perhaps it's more than one. Perhaps it's a general feeling, a general emotion, or an energetic feeling. Perhaps you're seeing colors. Anything that happens here is for your highest good. So just let it unfold. Don't judge it. Don't feel that you're doing this right or wrong. Just let it come into your space. And allow this guide to support you. Maybe you give someone a hug. Maybe you just invite the energy fully into your space. If it's a color, maybe you wrap yourself up in this color. We're going to spend the next few moments just doing a little bit of sound. And throughout this time, I just want you to be present with your guide. Perhaps you're catching up. Perhaps you're asking for specific guidance. Perhaps you're just being in each other's presence. Perhaps you're just feeling the energy of your sanctuary. Wherever you're at in this meditation, just know that you're fully supported. Let yourself feel supported as we explore some beautiful sound here. Allow your last few moments here with your spirit guide, with this energy that's come in to support you even more fully. Let this energy allow you to step outside of your comfort zone, to loosen your grip and to let go of that attachment to the outcome. Recognizing that this is a process that serves your growth, that serves your expansion and your clarity, that brings more harmony and healing into your physical body, your mental and emotional bodies, into your being as a whole, as you align with your spirit, with that larger purpose. This support will show up for you more and more. You will recognize it more and more. It's always been there, but you will feel it deeply in your body, in that physical body, all the way down to your toes. You'll recognize this support even in the situations that don't serve your ego. Everything is working for your highest good in each moment of your life. Let go of the gripping. Let that flow. guide you. Let it float you down the current of life toward your highest purpose, toward your highest good, toward the grandest version of yourself that you haven't even yet imagined. As you're ready, thank this energy, thank your guide. Just sit in gratitude for a moment for this practice, for your willingness to expand into this practice, for this support you received this evening, recognizing that you're always supported by these beautiful energies, both on the physical plane and in the spiritual realms. As you're ready, perhaps you give your guide a little gift or a gesture of love. You might promise to come back and visit for more support, for more guidance. As you're ready, very gently allow that energetic sanctuary to travel back to its spiritual home, recognizing again that you're still in this space, you're still connected fully to the ground. You've still got this beautiful flow of light in through the top of your head. If you'd like, you can gently allow that crown chakra to close, or just keep this beautiful flow open for the highest good. And one more time, taking a nice deep breath, drawing that energy, that light, that love down all the way through your body as you breathe in, all the way down to the hips and the pelvis, and then sighing it out, letting that energy flow down into the earth. Perhaps you wiggle your toes a little bit, your feet, and again, take a nice deep breath in, draw that energy down into the body, sigh it out into the earth, and then affirm with me out loud, I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body, and the universe supports me. I am fully present in my body, and I am divine. As you're ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes again if you'd like. Move your head and neck around a little bit, just very slowly coming back into your conscious mind here, allowing this flow, allowing this feeling to stay with you for the rest of this evening. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Let yourself stay in this beautiful flow. Step out of your comfort zone. Loosen your grip. Let go of that attachment to the outcome. And recognize that you are always supported. You are always loved. You are always light. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Have a fully supported rest of your week. And I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.